Despite the antics of Paul Ryan trying to sneak through some kind of crazy amnesty as we head into the summertime and the Congress isn't getting the rest of its work done, Ann Coulter seems to be in a remarkably good mood based on her last column, which is absolutely a hoot. You know, Ann, I don't know whether it's right to read your column as an indication of how you're feeling, but there are weeks you are very serious, you know, with occasional bursts of humor. And then there are columns like this one that just make you laugh all the way through them. Welcome back to the program, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you for welcoming me back, and thank you for saying that about my column, though my column makes an important point that I know I've been yammering about for years now, so it doesn't seem like news to you, but it's one of those counterintuitive things that does have to be, I think, renewed now and then, and that is the idea that the reason we have civil rights laws is because of slavery and the legacy of Jim Crow, and which, by the way, was entirely instigated and promoted by Democrats. We've had this consistent problem in America of having a lot of trouble getting Democrats to stop discriminating against blacks. So Republicans, with a little help from Democrats, a few, passed, these massive civil rights laws in the 60s that abrogated traditional concepts of things like freedom of association and property rights. In this one case, in this one special, unique, historically different from any other case, we were going to tell owners of restaurants and hotels, we don't care if this is your private property, no discriminating against black people, and clubs and universities and so on and so forth. No, we do have freedom of association as a general matter in our Constitution, but not when it comes to discriminating against black people. Democrats, per their usual history, blew that off. They were never really interested in black people to begin with, and instantly took civil rights, the concept of civil rights, as a great gig to start pushing their most grotesque and preposterous ideas. Abortion, partial birth abortion, gays marrying one another, gays forcing Christians to bake cakes for them, smelly homeless people in libraries in New Jersey. That was a federal judge, the famous Lee Sirican. It became an issue back during the Clinton administration when public library in New Jersey kept excluding a smelly homeless person who was staring and frightening the other patrons. And Judge Sirican, then a district court judge, said, no, this is a violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution. Why do we have an Equal Protection Clause? Because it was a result of the Civil War. Again, there was one specific group we were talking about here. But liberals just dumped that to push all their craziest ideas. That was because of the Christian Baker case coming out, the Supreme Court deciding no, Christians cannot be forced by two bossy gays to bake a wedding cake for them. Came out the same day that we see, Bill Clinton raising his head again, and it's just always annoyed me. And I have thought it is the most profound insult to African Americans that horny hick started calling himself the first black president. Not when he was doing, all the stuff Democrats are proud of, like welfare reform or dancing to Fleetwood Mac. No, when he was caught in the most humiliating sex scandal in American history, that's when he decided he was the first black president.
Hey, before we leave that one behind, though, I want you to tell people, what was the legal reasoning? I understand you don't agree with it, and I don't agree with it, but this federal judge who somehow found this wasn't an immutable characteristic. So, you're a lawyer, so you know those terms.
The homeless guy?
Yeah, because being black is an immutable characteristic, right. And even gender used to be an immutable characteristic. I can't wait for the first case that challenges that, now that we now are told that being male or female is not immutable, but you can change it anytime you want just by changing your mind. But he decided that not showering very often was apparently an immutable characteristic. No, it's not. You can go get a bar of soap and find yourself some running water, and you can get cleaned up anytime you want.
Yes, that was the point being made on the other side. And by the way, you're definitely using the right legal lingo on immutable characteristics, but my argument is that the history, the meaning of our civil rights laws it's not about immutable characteristics. You can discriminate on the basis of immutable characteristics. You might want a girl to play a particular part in a play.
Yep.
I mean, people understand that discrimination isn't always bad discrimination. What this country decided collectively, fought a war over, passed constitutional amendments over, the one kind of discrimination we were not going to put up with was race discrimination. Again, just, footnote, coming from one party, and it wasn't the Republicans. So forget the immutable characteristics. I mean, I know that the law, the federal discrimination laws now apply to everything under the sun, and immutable characteristics by and large, as you say. But that isn't right, and I'm going to keep saying this until I'm blue in the face, and maybe someday this country will go back to what the civil rights laws were really about. It's at least worth pointing out that Democrats are big, fake, phony frauds when they, weep on about civil rights, and you find out they're not talking about black people. They're always talking about gays, bossy women, angry, homeless people. It's never about black people, and that is the whole point of our civil rights laws.
And by the way, I was happy. To see that you offered kind of a backhanded defense of Roseanne by pointing out that one of the top academics of the left, Peter Singer from Princeton, is a guy who did it before Roseanne did it.
And seriously and deliberatively, he wrote in a book on ethics, thank you for mentioning this, I'd forgotten this crucial part of my column, book in ethics arguments saying that we needed to extend to apes the same rights we've extended to humans, using the black liberation movement as his model.
Unbelievable. Apes. And as you point out, this was not an Ambien-induced Twitter rant by a comedian. Singer wrote it, and he's actually taken seriously enough to have a sinecure at a big private university.
I mean, he used to be at Princeton. I assume he's still there. And he writes, fairly frequently on the op-ed page of the New York Times. No, you're right. He is an absolutely serious academic who thinks, we should kill the disabled and treat apes like black people. Unbelievable.
Well, I'm glad for you pointing this out, and I hadn't realized that the smelly homeless people had been a full-on federal lawsuit. But as you point out, this actually the judge ended up being elevated by President Clinton, didn't he?
Yes. They can't just say, "Oh yeah, he was appointed by Carter, but then he went crazy." No, this is a foundational principle of the Democratic Party, to scam us with civil rights, to get weepy and talk about these precious civil rights, and then they're talking about sticking a fork in the head of a baby, or forcing a Christian to bake a cake for a gay wedding. No, the reason we get choked up and we take civil rights very seriously is because we are referring to remedying specific historic injustices done to black Americans by our country, not just, any angry feminist.
No, absolutely right. And thank you so much. Great column. I highly recommend it, and I appreciate you coming on tonight.
Good to talk to you, Lars. Bye-bye.
Nice to talk to you as well. That's Ann Coulter, the author of In Trump We Trust, and also, as I said, a great column, and this one will make you laugh all the way through.
We will make America great again.